Hello there and welcome to another edition of Rick and Bubba University, the podcast. Bubba, today we have a reoccurring guest. He has a brand new book, and I speak, of course, the book is called The White Privilege Album. A.J. Rice has been with us before, but he returns with another book, and as you know with A.J., he's not afraid to speak his mind on some of the absurdity that we see, and as you and I keep talking about others too. You know, you hear the term fake news a lot. You and I doing the Daily Show and dealing with people, it's beyond fake news. There's an attempt to build a fake world.
Oh, yeah.
And so we try to see if we can't get to reality. So, AJ, welcome back to Rick and Bubba University, the podcast.
Gentlemen, great to be here. You know, it's my second time here. You know, maybe my last. If things don't go well, we'll all be in the gulag together.
Yeah, right. But remember, it's Trump that wants to weaponize the government, not the party that keeps weaponizing the government.
All right.
That's right.
AJ, listen, today, I mean, we were doing our normal Monday through Friday show today, the very day in which we're recording this. And we did a story where New York City is now going to take away the law that forbids jaywalking because jaywalking is racist. Giving people tickets for jaywalking has some sort of racist, white supremacy motivation. So we're gonna let people jaywalk all they want to. This is exactly what you're doing with the book when things like this are deemed racist. Did you hear that story and see that story?
I did see that story. Like I've said, and I say in the book, if everything's racist, nothing is. But if we are gonna sort of go down that route, I want to take on sort of the Wesley Snipes view of the IRS. I want to pretend like the IRS is racist. I want to stop paying taxes. Forget jaywalking. We got to up the ante here on these crimes. But yeah, I mean, look, New York City, you know, I'm not shocked, but I mean, you know, what Rudy Giuliani did and then Bloomberg carried over is it turned the city around and kept the city in line. I mean, New York City, after de Blasio and what's going on now, is in a slow descent into the maelstrom of, you know, woke politics, identity politics, and just crime and defunded police. I mean, so I'm not shocked, you know. So now the squeegee guy, he can jaywalk and probably throw himself onto your car and try to squeegee the camera, you know, and you can't call him any names because it might be racist.
Well, I'm looking at some of the chapters and got the book. Now, you're certainly doing similar to what I think has always been a great tool to use. You're using humor to make some really profound truths because it's almost like, you know, we love the guys over at Babylon Bee. I'm sure you do as well. But, you know, they're having to tell everybody that they are doing fake news because you can't tell the difference anymore. You know, I love their slogan, no, really, fake news. We're making these headlines and these stories up. But now you can't tell the difference in the real world and in a made-up world. Even attempts at humor, people now don't know whether it's humor or not.
Sure. And look, the Babylon Bee put the Onion. Remember the Onion guys? That
yes.
That was the liberal version of this. They never had to put any disclaimers out there.
So true.
No disclaimers. No Surgeon General's warning on that. What Colbert, for almost a decade, was a pretend right-winger. He went on TV. He was doing a minstrel show version, I guess, of your buddy Sean of Hannity, and he never had to put a disclaimer on. He stayed in character. I mean, he's not in character now. The mask is off. He's on CBS News, and he's a left-wing kook having beers with Kamala. But you know, they don't have to put disclaimers out, which I find interesting because I guess in addition to what you're talking about there, Gavin Newsom has legislation in California that would go after the Babylon Bee, would go after memes, parodies, any of these things. So, and I think the Babylon Bee is countersuing him, which is good. You know, Seth and the boys, they do a great job over there. We need more of this. We need more free speech absolutism. I talked to you guys about that with The Walking Dead.
Yep.
Now there are, you know, some sort of left-wing characters out there that are willing to get in front of the firing squad with all of us that are, you know, free speech absolutists. They're being intellectually honest, but not as much as there should be. I mean, Ricky Gervais, Dave Chappelle, there's a few others. Bill Maher, depending upon what topic he's talking about. for sure, but not enough, and it's a shame. But we just have to keep plugging. I mean, look, guys, there's a reason Greg Gutfeld is crushing the Jimmys and the Stevens and the Schmagagis all there on late night, because they're all doing the same show. It is lazy comedy.
Oh yeah.
I mean, look, Babylon B makes fun of Trump. I make fun of Republicans all the time.
Yep.
Yeah.
You have to.
They're easy to make fun of.
Sure. I mean, but we have become. It's so crazy that this has happened. We've become the counterculture people now.
Yeah.
We're not even really pushing the envelope as much as we should. I mean, guys, I was gonna lead today with a bunch of Puerto Rican jokes, and now I can't.
Yeah.
Right?
That's out. That's out.
No, I'm looking for a few shortstops for the Phillies. You know, any Puerto Rican? No, I'm joking. I'm joking.
There you go.
That's right.
There he goes. There goes AJ. But do you think, like when you mentioned some people, we were a little bit shocked this week. Do you think though, if you're trying to do comedy, and you're a leftist politically, you're not real sure why. You just think you're supposed to be because you've done well and you've been made to feel guilty about that. And the very system that allowed you to do well, I've heard people use the term pulling the ladder up after you're already in the treehouse. Now you've got your Springsteens and all these incredibly wealthy people now wanting the rest of us not to be able to be wealthy by demonizing capitalism, headed towards socialism, all the garbage we know. But we were kind of doing the show, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, Saturday Night Live started being funny again. It's almost like at one time, they could only make fun of the right, to your point. And I actually thought the Steve Colbert character was hilarious when he was the right-wing person on The Daily Show. I actually thought that was a really funny character, and I laughed at it every time and thought he did it really well.
No, fake Steven is funnier than real Steven.
No, sure, no
really
question. That time when we had the timer behind him, it was the countdown to all of us on the right pretending we like Mitt Romney. That was hilarious.
Yeah, that was good.
And he was scared because it was counting down.
Yeah,
that was funny. But all of a sudden, Saturday Night Live, making fun of the left and the right. All of a sudden, Bill Maher gets to the point where he's like, this is even getting too absurd for me. Are you seeing a break a little bit on people that just want to be funny?
Well, with Maher's a different kind of case because
Maher
was originally kind of a libertarian guy, and he got fired for those 9/11 comments on Comedy Central, Politically Incorrect, which was owned by ABC, which is owned by Disney. So, he said something like the 9/11 terrorists had courage or something.
I remember that. Yeah.
And he had to go. But I mean, look, let's be honest. I mean, he's an anti-Bush guy. He's an anti-Trump guy. He was no fan of McCain or Romney. But to his credit, I think, especially with wokeism, with cultural Marxism, and look, he's an atheist, so he's always sort of fairly made fun of all the religions, and he's not afraid to make fun of Islam.
Of course.
So he got a lot of crap for goofing on Islam, for dunking on Muhammad. College campuses were protesting him. He even got into a fight with Ben Affleck about this by using the term radical Islamic terror, right?
Right.
Ben Affleck said that's like calling someone a shifty Jew, right?
Yeah.
So, but I think he knows that they will eventually come for him. He has reached out to more conservative people. In fact, I know for a fact there are right-wingers on his staff because I know them, writers that are writing some of these jokes that, make Joe Scarborough and Mika uncomfortable, some of these jokes. But I mean, look, the equal distribution of ridicule is what keeps society honest, right? I tell people all the time, the comedy's job is to be the first version of history.
Right.
Right? And to check power. You have to check power. You think the Stevens and the Jimmys are checking power? Gutfeld is. Maher does sometimes. Chappelle does. Now, with Saturday Night Live, that's a corporate entity owned by Comcast, Universal, which owns NBC. They did start making fun of Tim Walz and Kamala, but then some kind of phone call must have come in because the following week, Alec Baldwin was back making fun of Brett Baer.
Okay.
So, I mean, they're only going to go so far. I mean, they're not even going to go to where Maher will go, right? Because I think Maher knows when you're dealing with all these radical groups that, I don't care whether it's the Woking Dead, the trans mafia, the digital brown shirts that try to cancel all, our shows online. It's really about controlling language and thus controlling behavior. They want to control. They want to make us self-censor, to be so scared of cancellation, of advertisers leaving, or whatever it is, that we self-censor, right? And look, we talked about this before, guys. If they can't get you digitally, then they will come physically. I mean, they jumped on stage with Chappelle. They broke Rand Paul's ribs. They shot up a Steve Scalise baseball field. They went to Brett Kavanaugh's house with an AR-15. I mean, look, Trump's been shot at. He had 2 assassins.
Yeah.
So there is an intimidation factor there. You look at that, you lay it all out in order, and then they call the Republicans the fascists. The Republicans are Hitler, the ultra MAGA fascist, garbage people. I mean, that deplorable fascist, whatever it is. So they sort of become what they claim we are, which is,
the old Russian move. It's the old Soviet Union move.
It's a Saul Alinsky tactic for sure.
Yep.
But with comedians, it is interesting. It's funny. You talk about entertainers in general. Entertainers, poets, journalists, their job is to check the company men, to check power. I don't care whether it's Howard Stern, who's now given himself 50,000 booster shots, and he's, going to Diddy White parties. He's hanging out with Billy Joel playing Mahjong on Long Island. He's no longer the Ramones, guys. He's no longer,
right.
Yeah. He's not Sid Vicious anymore. He's not punk rock anymore. He's just a company man.
Yeah, he is.
Right.
He's become the man.
He has. We saw it happen to Homie the Clown.
The man.
He has become the man right before our eyes. Do you think too that some of the wokest, and I'm going to call them that they finally the truth of the situation just hit them right in the face when they went to the supermarket and had to pay $6 for a carton of eggs?
Yeah, I think inflation does get them, but we're talking about a lot of fancy people here. Right? We're talking about a lot of fancy people that live in the whitest zip codes in America, right? So they're able to virtue signal the middle class to death, right?
Yes.
And pay no consequence. I mean, look, here's the thing. For some reason, entertainers have reached a point where they're starting to wrap their arms around the Pentagon. They're wrapping their arms around the pharmaceutical companies. They're wrapping their arms around defense contractors dropping bombs in Russia and Ukraine. I mean, I don't care whether it's Bob Dylan, Chuck D, or Daniel Ellsberg and the Pentagon Papers. There was a time when the left's job was to check all of this stuff. I don't care whether it's Pryor or Carlin or Joan or Lenny Bruce, Dice, Sam Kinison, Rodney Dangerfield. For some reason, a lot of that has gone away, and they've all sort of thrown in with these multinational corporations. Well, last time I was on, we talked about LeBron James siding with the regime in the Hong Kong protests because he had a movie coming out in China, Space Jam 2, the sequel, right? From hell, the garbage. No one saw it. It was a sequel to the Michael Jordan Space Jam movie.
Right.
And just like him trying to be the GOAT, he can't be the GOAT in Space Jam either. I guess the only people that wanted to see that garbage were the CCP, because none of us went and saw it. We didn't go see it. So look, we have to check these people, right? And that's what I'm doing with the White Privilege album. I mean, this is satire. This is not a Beatles album. This is not. I mean, I was going to call the book F Yoko, but my editors told me I couldn't do that, right? but look, I apologize to the Beatles for the album, for the White Privilege album. Bringing racial harmony to very fine people on both sides. Obviously, left-wing heads explode because of the very fine people. Now, what was that? You guys know this. That was the foundational hoax. The foundational race hustle during the Trump era that Trump was a white supremacist or a racist.
Yeah.
It was debunked by everyone. Michael Rappaport, Bill Maher, CBS News, Snopes, this Soros-funded fact-checking organization. So you have to poke back at them. So what am I doing with the book? I'm abducting their language and weaponizing it and using it back against them to make fun of them. And I think it's a long time coming here.
Let's come back and finish that. We'll talk more about the book. It's called The White Privilege Album by A.J. Rice. When Rick and Bubba University, the podcast continues right after this. But I do want to point today, if you're listening to the show and you're not listening on Raycon everyday earbuds, if you want to make a decision, you got to get informed, but you got to be able to hear what's going on. But you know what? Just like we're talking about, when it comes to prices sometimes, you're like, well, I guess I have to pay more. And then you realize that Raycon's about half the price. I mean, honestly, when you look at some of these high-priced premium earbuds, they look ridiculous. When it comes to Raycon everyday earbuds, let me tell you, right now, they're more discreet. They've got some cool, vibrant colors that you will love. And it's an incredible opportunity for you to wear premium earbuds at about half the price. And then, of course, we're going to get you additional savings if you go to our URL. How does up to 30% off sound to you? So go to buyraycon.com/RickBubbaPod. Put all that together. Buyraycon.com/RickBubbaPod. Get these everyday earbuds, and you'll love the new features like the multi-point connectivity. You can get two devices at once.
Oh, yeah.
Also, you can go there. The sound profiles are there. What am I listening to? Pick the right profile. How about this? Do I want to isolate myself and not hear what's going on around me? You can. Do I want the awareness mode? It's all there. So save money right now by going to buyraycon.com/RickBubbaPod today. Get up to 30% off site-wide. Well, our guest today is A.J. Rice. He's back. The Woking Dead was the last book that we talked about as he continues to punch back. And this one is the White Privilege Album. And he is using the left's own words to point out how absurd it is.
A.J., once again, I think you've got a hit on your hands.
Yeah, well, look, our friend, guys, and it's funny, I have the same birthday as Rush Limbaugh and Howard Stern.
Oh, wow.
I don't know whether that makes me the radio antichrist or what.
Yeah, I don't know what that makes you, yeah.
Rush used to say that his job was to use absurdity to illustrate truth, right? Use irreverent humor to illustrate truth. And that's really what we're doing with the book. I mean, there's 12 chapters in the book, and I call them the 12 months of privilege. Chapter 1's January. Mm-hmm. Chapter 12 is December, and I go through an entire calendar year, and I defend Western traditions and our holidays, American history. I tell some sports stories, some stuff that actually should bring racial harmony.
Right.
Sports was one of these things, the great meeting house that was supposed to, not be infected by some of this stuff, but unfortunately, in some cases, it has. And look, you have to defend the nuclear family. I defend, the middle class. I defend Western civilization. But you got to have some fun. So whether it's Black History Month, which I call Morgan Freeman History Month, all the way through to, October, I talk about Columbus Day. Elizabeth Warren Day, and Halloween, and why I can't dress up like a black guy anymore for Halloween.
Right.
As much as I would like to dress up like Dr. J or Darth Vader. I'm not allowed. Into November, talk about Thanksgiving, Christmas, and we even do a tribute to Kwanzaa.
Oh boy.
Which I found out is only being celebrated in the lily white humanities departments of the universities of America. It's only the only people I could find celebrating Kwanzaa. And guys, I called up Target. I called up Costco because on their websites they had all these Kwanzaa decorations, and I asked them, "How many of these do you sell every year?" None. How much of this Chinese Kwanzaa garbage that you're bringing in from China? They sell none of it. I said, so why are you guys why are you selling it if no one buys it? I mean, you would talk about DEI and ESG. So it's on there. It's on there in case the people that teach lesbian underwater basket weaving at your local university, if they call up and they want to have a Kwanzaa party with the other blue-haired professors, maybe they can get some decorations for their office or the faculty lounge. The faculty lounge.
Yeah.
Guys, something you said a minute ago jogged my memory. You said we were talking about these celebrities and whether or not they're outraged by inflation. And I said no, because they're rich and so on. What I will tell you that there were a group of celebrities in the last year, since the last time we spoke, that have become outraged and sort of shocked. They were shocked at something. Last October, when Hamas attacked Israel on October 7th, and different totalitarian groups and left-wing woke groups, globalism groups, wokeism groups rushed in to back the terror organization. Right? There were a bunch of comedians in particular, Jewish comedians, Sarah Silverman, Michael Rappaport, Chuck Schumer's chubby niece, Amy Schumer. They were shocked, guys, to discover that their friends in the Bernie Sanders organizations, their friends with the pink pussycat hats on, the Me Too movement, their friends with Black Lives Matter, all supported the terror organization. They were all in favor of the slaughter of Jews. And then they took to the streets, and then they took to the college campuses because, gentlemen, totalitarians of a feather flocked together. Yep. They were shocked. I mean, they were the last people to discover that National Socialists and the United States Communist Party supported the ending of the state of Israel. Now, Rappaport, it seems to has turned around, but they were the last ones to figure this out.
Right.
And then you had the hunting of Jewish students, Columbia, UCLA, all these places. And I make this point all the time, and a lot of people don't do this. So you have these really rich white universities where you have Queers for Palestine, right, guys?
Unbelievable. I don't even know how does that sign even get out of the room before somebody says, guys, those two things are mutually exclusive, right? You realize that.
Well, and guys, right here in the book, I got a blurb. First with the first book, I got a blurb from like Judge Janine and Ingram. This time around, I could have asked the two of you for a blurb, but I actually got a blurb from Hamas right here. And Hamas gave me a blurb, and the blurb was, buy one book, get fatwa free. Right? And it says from Hamas. Yeah, I mean, charter member of the Queers for Palestine. So here's the thing, guys. The most racist regime in history, Hitler's regime, decided at one point to side with a non-white country because when you have totalitarians all in the same rowboat, they will paddle together. They'll eventually eat each other.
Right. But to get to the place, they need each other to paddle.
You're right.
I got you.
That's right. Right. Germany and Japan, this Asian country, they sided with each other to fight their enemies. I'm sure if we ever got to some alternative version of history, like in that TV show, The Man in the High Castle, you had Germany and Japan had taken over planet Earth. They were starting to turn on each other.
Right.
By the 1950s. So if they had won World War II, they probably would have eventually turned on each other. And that's like any of these crazy regimes, guys. Whether it's the French Revolution or the Russian Revolution, they eventually start chopping each other's heads off. Robespierre got his own head chopped off, right? So he chopped off the Marie Antoinette, and then he got chopped. But look, they all have the common goal. So you remember that video of the Taliban shooting those RPGs?
Yes.
Yeah. At the Buddhist statue. So whether it's stabbing Salman Rushdie, which I think since the last time we talked, that has happened. He got actually attacked. Or whether it's the Antifa in the streets, the burning of Minneapolis, Black Lives Matter put on their website, they supported what Hamas had done because in the sort of woke version of history, gentlemen, and quite frankly, some of our friends on the right get a little hypnotized by some of this too. I'm not quite sure where they're going with this. Israel has no right to be ruled by the self-governing body that they have, that Israel is a colonial power, that a bunch of white people wandered out of Eastern Europe and stole land from the Bedouin, the Arab Bedouin, and set up this sort of racist white supremacy regime. Right in the middle of, the capital of the Jewish people in the Old Testament. I mean, it's just insane, right? King David's capital. Right. You're not allowed to be there. And I will tell you guys this, it is a shame, because one of the things that was happening prior to the October 7th attack was the three Abrahamic religions, Christianity, Judaism, and Islam, were working together in a lot of communities to push back on wokeism. Because none of these groups of people want Kim and Jim in their daughter's locker room. Right.
Common sense.
Right? So we were bringing racial harmony. We were bringing Abrahamic harmony, and then obviously that went to hell, and you saw the wildfire of anti-Semitism. I guess my question is, and Trump, as we speak, is leading with Jewish voters in Pennsylvania, and he's leading with Arab Americans, Muslim voters in Michigan, if you can believe it. So the Trump coalition is bringing some harmony. But when it comes to Jewish voters, they've been voting Democrat a long time. They think Joseph Stalin helped save them from Hitler for whatever reason.
Right.
And FDR, obviously, as well, and Truman. Will they stop voting for their own beheading? How much more evidence do you need when you have Jewish students being hunted on the fanciest schools in America? And just one last point, guys, about all these colleges going crazy. You know what no one ever points out? That when all these colleges start misbehaving and they get crazy, either because of the George Floyd thing or because of the attack on Israel, you know what you never see in the news?
What's that?
You never see historically black colleges or universities erupting in anti-Semitic riots, burning down the buildings, burning down the auditorium, taking over classrooms. They are always behaving themselves. It's always the lily white liberal universities, the fancy ones, not the kids that actually came from nothing.
Right.
Escaped some hellhole, and they're getting an education, and yet the media never notices. Oh, wait a minute. You mean only the white left-wing universities are misbehaving? Yes. Yes. So isn't that interesting? And no one ever points that out.
We'll be back. The White Privilege album is the book. It is a great gift for the coming holiday season, but a great read, too, by A.J. Rice. And we'll continue our conversation with him when Rick and Bubba University, the podcast, continues right after this. So, election is coming, Bubba. Here it comes. Here, the little train.
Stand by
rolling
for an
down
election.
the track at election. So, you're thinking to yourself, I'm not going to sit down again and watch all the spin, all the filters, all the stuff that our guest is talking about today. Well, Blaze TV is the alternative. Just give me some boots on the ground. Give me some journalism. Let me know the state of the country. Let me know the state of the vote. But you're not going to get that if you're not a subscriber to Blaze TV. So subscribe now and be ready for Tuesday. Go to blazeelection.com/Rick and get $40 off. That's blazeelection.com/Rick. Get $40 off. Be there when Blaze TV speaks the truth with no spin, no filters, real talk, breaking down what's happening in real time. Now more than ever, independent media sources, we need them like never before. Subscription-based, so they're not going to be canceled. blazeelection.com/Rick. Get $40 off and get ready for real journalism covering the election this Tuesday night. A.J. Rice is our guest. The White Privilege album is the book. A.J., you made a point. I heard who used to be the producer for on radio, Laura Ingraham, talking to you, and I saw that interview, and you made a good point that the race issue has become so absurd that now even when people of color will not get in line and they won't fulfill the stereotype that the left and the Marxists and all these have created, the Saul Alinsky's, they're now told that they're abandoning their ethnicity. And you took on the one that they're hating right now, and that is black men are not going along with Kamala, and then they get lectured by Obama, and that somehow they've abandoned their ethnicity, and you're saying it's not that complicated.
That's right. It's not. And look, the second black president goes to Pittsburgh to lecture a bunch of Pittsburgh Steelers fans. And I call him the second black president because the first black president was a chubby white guy from Arkansas.
Yeah, everybody knew that.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, Bill.
That's right. I mean, Maya Angelou told me that. Anyway, and I believe her. So he goes there. And remember, Obama lives in these, fancy, liberal white zip codes. He goes there to lecture, the brothers. That's what he called them. And I'm from Philly. I'll say it. I grew up on a playground. when I'm done here, I'm putting my Allen Iverson jersey back on. Okay. I will tell you, he goes there and he basically says to them, I'm concerned about the brothers, that you're not voting for Kamala because she's a woman. She's from the neighborhood. Now,
oh my.
That's what he said.
Oh my.
Now, I don't know what neighborhood she's from, because she keeps saying she grew up in a middle-class family. So, and I know her mom went to McGill University. They lived in a very fancy neighborhood in Canada. Okay?
All right.
So she's the first Jamaican, the first Indian, the first Canadian. She's the first all these things.
Yeah, got a lot going.
And he says, look, you got to vote your melanin. You got to vote your skin color. And if you don't, you might be a misogynist. You might be a racist. It's never dawned on Obama that maybe. And look, let's be honest. I don't think I can count on one hand things that Barack Obama did in 8 years as a presidency. I mean, he hung out in the Situation Room with Jay-Z and Beyonce, and he said that he could have been Trayvon Martin's father, and he said the Cambridge police acted stupidly, and he had his fancy law school professor come down and have a beer with the cop. But he didn't do much for African Americans. They don't have amnesia, contrary to Joy Reid's belief.
Right.
So they remember him not doing much. I mean, Obama had 3 opportunities to nominate and put on a Supreme Court pick. He didn't pick any black people. He picked 2 women that are childless and marriedless. J.D. Vance's favorite type of women. Okay? so Sotomayor and Kagan. And then he had a shot when Scalia died. And who did he nominate? He nominated our current attorney general, another white dude. So, and obviously that didn't happen. We got Gorsuch instead, thank God. But I will tell you.
And he's not holding a grudge over it. It doesn't look at all.
No,
That's right. But I will tell you, there was a famous Democrat, New York Democrat, who came up with this term, Daniel Patrick Moynihan. And I said it on Ingram's show, that Obama was deploying the soft bigotry of low expectations.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's never dawned on him that maybe Trump's policies were better for working class, multi-ethnic groups of people,
right,
including African-American males. If it wasn't for COVID, escaping, Dr. Fauci's underwear drawer, if it wasn't for that, we'd still be humming right now. So maybe African Americans don't want $6 eggs. They don't want the Green New Deal. They don't want cops defunded. They don't want public schools that are garbage, right? True garbage, right? True garbage. If there is garbage in the United States, it's the public school systems that the Democrats control, right?
No doubt.
Maybe they don't want the whole third world redistributed to their front yard.
Right.
So maybe it's not about what color Trump is.
Right.
It's about his policies. It's never occurred to them that this could be a meritocracy. It's all just, the little ice cube trays, color-coded Benetton ad, this person has to vote this way. But they are dying by this because they imported all these Latin Catholics, these right-wing Latin Catholics escaping some, left-wing Marxist hellhole dumps, quite frankly, whether it's Venezuela or Mexico, you pick one. It's not just the Cubans anymore in Cuba, in Florida. It's all of them. And they love Trump. I mean, look at these counties along the Rio Grande Valley. They're not exactly filled with Scandinavians, gentlemen. They're voting for Trump, right?
Yeah.
So and then how does the media, Asians are voting for Trump, Indian Americans, Kamala's the first presidential candidate that can make a good curry. The Indian Americans are still voting. They're taking their samosas and they're voting for Trump. right? So, but how does the media explain this? They explain it through either sexism and misogyny, like Obama said,
of course, yeah.
or they come up with this term, guys. Now, I don't know whether this term stands for you guys. I think it does because you're sitting next to each other. They've come up with this term called white adjacent.
Oh.
Okay, so like Bubba is adjacent to Rick. Like you guys are adjacent to each other.
Right.
You guys are sitting next to each other. So Asian Americans, Latin Americans, they're not really people of color.
Oh, no.
They're white adjacent. So if they stand next to Rice, who's Irish, my whiteness jumps off of me.
Right onto them.
Right onto them.
Right onto them because they used, the Asians did this. And there was a Supreme Court decision, and Clarence Thomas, I write about this in the book, cut the head off of this, affirmative action. Asian, basically the left concocts these affirmative action rules, so Asians and Indians started using them. Right? So they weren't the right type of minority.
No,
right?
No. And that's not degrading at all. That's not degrading at all. No, like you said, the bigotry of low expectations,
Sure. Right. They start getting into Princeton and Yale. Oh, wait a minute. Pump the brakes. You're not the right type of minority. So it's silly season, obviously, but we have to make fun of it. And guys, there's one thing, speaking of Trump and Obama, in the book, I call Trump our first hip hop president. Okay. So Trump, and I've never seen this in my life. A lot of rappers are supporting Trump, a lot of UFC fighters and wrestlers. And Trump has always been a fixture in rap music for various reasons. But one of the stories that people forget about, and this is one of the craziest stories of all time, is this. Trump gets a phone call from Kanye and some other rappers, maybe Lil Wayne, that a rapper named A$AP Rocky had been detained in Sweden for something stupid.
Yeah.
Now, Sweden's quite possibly, gentlemen, the whitest country on planet Earth. Right?
Yes.
You don't get any water.
They're not exactly the Vikings anymore, right? It's not exactly. They're not exactly Ragnar Lothbrok anymore. They're not even
little passive.
Yeah, right. And they're not even as tough as the Minnesota Vikings fans.
Oh, sorry.
And you got to be tough to be one of those.
Right. Well, they're whatever. Now, when they play the Eagles, that's another story. But I will tell you, Trump, a white president, calls up a NATO ally, a European Union ally, and he threatens Sweden with a trade war if they don't release one black guy. I have never in my life seen this. He was willing to bankrupt Sweden unless they let this one black rapper out of jail. He did the first step. He did the First Step Act, which got all kinds of people out of jail that Kamala Harris put in jail.
Right.
For stupid stuff like dime bags and stuff, stupid stuff. That was like the biggest African-American jailbreak since Abraham Lincoln. Right? So then he's threatening Sweden with a trade war if they don't let this rapper free. That rapper was gone. Trump was going to send like a C-130 to go pick him up. He didn't need it. But it's amazing. They call him all these names. And if you look at his coalition, this is the most multi-ethnic Republican coalition maybe since Eisenhower, right? Certainly of the last 50 to 75 years. And they are trying all this stuff. But look, African-American voters are no longer captured by the mainstream media. They all have phones. They all see what's going on. So, they're not looking to MSNBC and the New York Times to tell them how to vote, if they ever did. And I just think at a street level, forget the left-wing mayors of these blue cities. They don't have any power. Not now. And just to keep it in the rap game, they look at Kamala Harris, guys, like she's a studio gangster. He is a studio gangster. You can ask Dr. Dre, you can ask Chuck D, you can ask any of them. They will tell you. Snoop, they all know this. She puts on, she's not as blatant as Hillary pulling the hot sauce out of her purse. But She's a studio gangster. They know it. And they know that the OG from the Golden Escalator will do right by them. They know him. They know him, and that's why I think you're going to see a giant percentage in this next election, African Americans voting for Trump.
We'll come back and finish our conversation with A.J. Rice. The book is The White Privilege Album from Rick and Bubba University. The podcast continues right after this.
This is the Rick and Bubba Show. Watch more at blazetv.com/Rick and Bubba.
Rick and Bubba, Rick and Bubba. A.J. Rice, our guest. We got about 4 minutes, maybe a little over that, to wrap up. And
AJ, I've got to know something. You're a very funny guy.
Yeah.
You're a very good writer.
Mm-hmm.
Do you do stand up? Because you are extremely funny. We're sitting here. My jaws are hurting
funny
from laughing.
Stuff, man.
Well, when I was in grad school, I used to write jokes for stand-ups. That's how I sort of paid the bills. Besides folding sweaters at the Gap. And gentlemen, I can still, my wife loves it. I didn't want her, it was like the secret. I didn't want her to know that I can air fold with my eyes shut, right?
Funny.
You don't even have to, wait a minute, you don't even have to lay it out on the counter?
No.
You don't even.
Oh, yeah. I can do it. And it looks like the stacks of sweaters at the Gap.
Oh, that's
It's
awesome.
perfect. Even the stickers line up, small, medium, large, extra large, right? So she's always like, honey, the laundry's done. Okay, go get it. Air fold it for me. No, I've never done stand-up. I mean, Ingram had me on the air with her as her, sidekick, kind of like Imus, Bernie McGurk with Imus. And, I do this, guys. I mean, I run the PR firm. I've got a theater background and an English literature background from another life. But, I mean, I'm not against it. I'm not afraid of crowds, obviously. And look, when you're an Irish Catholic wise ass from Philadelphia, and I'm only 5'8", so I had to be funny, right?
Right.
To get right. So most people that are funny are infected with an illness called come look at me.
Oh, yeah.
I always knew, guys, when I was in school that if I was in the principal's office at least once a week, that all my new material was killing.
Right.
I was killing it. Right? And then the Irish nuns would come in and straighten me out.
I knew I was killing.
I knew, right? My new set was killing it, right? But look, I try to weave comedy into my stuff because I grew up, watching stand up and writing with it. I mean, look, the opening sequence of this book begins with Blazing Saddles.
Oh,
right?
Couldn't be a movie today. Don Rickles couldn't be a comedian today.
No.
None of these things we could laugh at today.
No. And look, a lot of people don't know this, that Richard Pryor helped Mel Brooks write that script.
Funny.
So, you couldn't, could you make that today? I don't know.
No way.
No.
I don't know. I mean, look, Gene Wilder and Richard Pryor invented the black and white sort of buddy movie.
Yeah.
They invented that. These high and mighty studio execs would never make a movie like that. And then afterwards you have Lethal Weapon and, Beverly, another 48 Hours with Eddie and Nick Nolte and so on. We've had a bunch since, but look, you've got to bring humor. I'm trying to reach a different audience, some of the younger, millennials and Gen Z, because sometimes you can get to them that way. Andrew Breitbart was a mentor of mine. He used to say that, we need to take the fight to them. And I think Gutfeld does a great job doing that.
Very funny.
He does.
Very funny.
Steven Crowder and Babylon Bee and different podcasts. I mean, look, there's a reason. I don't know whether you guys know this, but Barron Trump was instrumental in getting Donald Trump on some of these podcasts in the last month here.
We heard that.
Right. So whether it's Rogan or Theo Vaughn, this is where the independent audience has fled to, right?
Right.
Trump is not sitting down with the Wall Street Journal editorial page. He's going to sit with Rogan for 3 hours. Right. So that means that humor and entertainment is winning. So, look, there's plenty of uptight right wingers that can write the books that I'm not going to write. So that's why, the White Privilege album and the Woking Dead, I try to bring some multi-level marketing, quite frankly, to it and make it fun. I mean, I even do a callback to the Woking Dead right here, guys, with the parental advisory.
I like it.
So,
that's really good. A.J. Rice, thank you again for taking time to be with us. The White Privilege album.
You're a funny man.
As it has been said many times, some of life's greatest truths are said in jest.
Yep.
And comedy has always been a tool for us to point to the absurdity of something while at the same time telling the truth. So, A.J. Rice, thank you for being with us, and thanks to each and every one of you for being with us on this edition of Rick and Bubba University, the podcast.